Hello, this is Russell Leidich. It's April 12th, 2010, and I'm here to talk to you today about a few techniques for mastering Google Translate. All the slides shown in this video can be seen at the following web address in much better quality. I highly recommend that in another tab you open up this web address so that you can follow along. In the video you'll be able to see which slide is displayed, but you probably won't be able to read it. The web address is Clear Translation, that's C-L-E-A-R, translation.blogspot.com. So pause the video for a second and open it up to follow along. Okay. Software language translators already exist. There are a number of them, not just Google Translate. However, they can produce wildly inaccurate translations. If you don't speak the language in the first place, then how can you possibly know whether or not the translation is accurate? In this video, you will learn how to create reliable translations in any major language. You might not be eloquent, but you will be able to learn to communicate clearly. Google Translate can handle over 50 languages, but it is very unreliable. I will show you a way to dramatically improve its reliability. Go there now. Open another tab. Go to translate.google.com. Please note that this is not a secure website, as it uses HTTP instead of HTTPS, so do not type any secret information into the translator. Hopefully one day Google will add secure support as well. Our example will involve English and Vietnamese. However, the techniques illustrated here can be applied to any language pair. And here's the first slide that you can follow along with in the blog. So when you first hit Google Translate, you're going to need to use the drop-down menus at the bottom to select the languages that you want to translate to and from. In this case, we're going to translate from English to Vietnamese. And I would add that Google Translate is most reliable when one of the languages is English, although it's not strictly necessary. Now, let's type in a sentence. In fact, I've given you a link just below this slide in the blog, so you can right-click and open a new tab, and you can see this displayed for you. I want to eat broccoli. Now, as you can see from the red underline, broccoli has been misspelled with a single C and two L's instead of the other way around. So we click Translate. Now, you must click Translate every time you change the sentence or the languages involved in the translation. Translator tries to translate as you type. However, the translation is sometimes wrong if you do not click Translate, and you'll notice that while you're typing, the translation is coming out below. Unfortunately, if you don't actually click Translate, especially later when we verify our translations, you may erroneously think that your translation is correct when in fact it's erroneous. Next slide. Now you'll note, by the way, that since we've chosen English and Vietnamese, the URL has changed, and it bears these little two-letter codes, EN and VI, which say translate from English to Vietnamese. Now, as you can see, the word broccoli passed straight through the translation, because Translate didn't know what to do with it. So this is wrong. Watch your spelling. Let's fix the problem. Okay, now we spelled broccoli correctly. I want to eat broccoli. Tôi muốn ăn bông cải xanh. That's the translated Vietnamese. Now the problem is, translator might just be lying to us. We have no idea, especially if we don't know Vietnamese, how good a translation this is. So first, step one, move the Vietnamese sentence into the text box above. In other words, erase I want to eat broccoli and replace it with Tôi muốn ăn bông cải xanh. And then second, click the back and forth icon to exchange languages. It's that little bendy arrow to the right of the English and Vietnamese drop-downs. Finally, number 3, click Translate again. Remember, the translator will automatically translate while you type, but it is not always correct, even in the opinion of Google Translate, unless you click Translate. Now, what I mean is, of course, if you click Translate, it could still be wrong, but then you're actually putting the sentence that you want to translate or the paragraph you want to translate through the Google Translate logic. If you don't do that, let's just say that the program tries to take some shortcuts and sometimes ends up giving you a translation that even it knows is wrong. Okay, next. We translated Toi mun an bongkai-sang. And indeed it comes out, I want to eat broccoli. Ding! That's correct. Now we know that there is a very high chance that our translation is correct because we went from English to Vietnamese and Vietnamese to English and we got exactly the same thing. Next. Use short sentences with proper accent marks and punctuation. And as a matter of fact, I would add, use as few commas and appositives as possible. If you use good vocabulary, make it specific vocabulary, but realize that sometimes Google Translate doesn't understand big, long words. And so you may have to use a more simple word. But if you use words with lots of meanings, such as move, you may find that the translation is lacking. Anyhow, back to short sentences. So we translated this sentence, use short sentences with proper accent marks and punctuation. And you can see the Vietnamese below. Let's move the Vietnamese back up to the top and translate it back again to English and see if it still makes sense. Okay, well, this should say use short sentences with proper accent marks and punctuation. However, it says use short sentences with appropriate accents and punctuation marks. This is a judgment call, but I'd say that the meaning there is close enough and it's probably an acceptable translation. Ding! Next example. Use words that have unambiguous meanings. That's what I was talking about before when I mentioned the word move, which has so many meanings. So here it is in Vietnamese. Let's check that. Wait a minute. The translation back to English says use words meaning clear. That doesn't mean use words that have unambiguous meanings. I'd say this is a bad translation. We'll have to figure out another way to say what we mean. If you forget accent marks, then the translation may be wrong. English doesn't have any accent marks, but other languages like Vietnamese and French do. They have these little marks over the vowels and sometimes even consonants to tell you how to pronounce them. So I've translated that sentence here. Let's put it back through to check. In fact, it comes out back in English, if you forget the accent mark, then the translation may be wrong. Okay, that's good enough. Ding! Now, let's type in the same Vietnamese sentence, but leave off all the accent marks and just type it in plain, normal letters. I've done that here. You meant to type the thing with the accent marks, but you forgot them. So what happened? The translation comes out, if your familiar accents list, followed by possible translation errors. Totally wrong. So don't forget your accent marks. Now, do you speak another language besides English? Great! Please explain these techniques to your friends who do not speak English. Better international communication helps everyone. But wait, there's something else that you can do if you know more than one language. Teach Google Translate how to translate more accurately. You might help thousands of people communicate better. Here's how to do it. For example, I typed in, I ate a salad for breakfast, and I translated from English to French. It says, J'ai mangé une salade pour le déjeuner. Now, at the bottom there's a link that says contribute a better translation. So I would say click here to suggest a new translation. Now, bear in mind, it may take a few months to get into the translator if in fact they accept your suggestion at all. Now, I happen to know that déjeuner is lunch and petit déjeuner is actually breakfast. So I put in, J'ai mangé une salade pour le petit déjeuner, and I clicked submit. So enter your suggested translation, then check it carefully. Make sure all the accent marks and the punctuation are exactly as they should be. Otherwise, Google may take a long time to figure out your error. Finally, click Submit. Remember again, it may take more than a month for your change to appear if it's accepted. But by doing this, eventually, after a few years, we'll all be communicating much better. Good luck. Thanks for watching.